ride out, and God bless America. Thank you.
This morning on Inside Kansas Politics, Kansas Senator Roger Marshall, one of the latest lawmakers to face backlash over federal spending cuts. What he's saying now after walking out of a heated town hall, and how those cuts could impact Kansas.
Plus, outrage from veteran service groups as those who have served our country are laid off from federal employment, with more layoffs on the way. We get analysis from a retired Army officer.
And that's where we start this morning. You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Rebecca Chung.
And I'm Rob Hughes. We're so glad you're here. Now, many veterans continue to serve, of course, after they hang up the uniform. Nearly 637,000 veterans are employed by the federal government as of late 2021.
Now, that's about 1/3 of the federal workforce. Leading veteran service organizations have been very active on this issue.
All right, I want to bring in retired Army paratrooper, public affairs officer, decorated combat veteran Chase Spears. Chase, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
It's great to be with you both this morning.
Thanks for your service. Now, let's talk about veterans applying to work for the federal government. Now, they get a couple of extra points, of course. If they're on the disability rating, they get more. As we look at these layoffs, do you think maybe they should get a preference to where they put them to the back of the line? They shouldn't lay them off right away or so soon.
Well, I think that comes down to a basic question of who are we as veterans? Like, for me, I'm still a full citizen, and I don't believe that I'm owed any special treatment. I volunteered to serve. I was glad to serve. The Army got a lot out of me. I got a lot out of the Army, and so I'm grateful for the experience. And so I certainly don't want veterans to be put at the back of the line, but I also think it's very important in this conversation to remember that we volunteered to serve, and that as the government is looking to bring about efficiencies, veterans shouldn't stand in the way of that. We have served the nation before, and we should be part of helping to find that solution.
All right, so let's also talk about the VA now announcing plans to lay off 76,000 employees. That's roughly 15% of the workforce. And then Wednesday, March 5th, we had a National Day of Solidarity of protest, with veterans being asked to rally for no cuts to VA healthcare benefits. So how will this impact the care that our veterans receive?
Well, I think it's important to think about the numbers here for a moment. The current VA workforce is roughly 482,000. To put that into perspective, the size of the active duty component Army is slightly under 450,000. We've seen a massive increase, roughly 15% increase in the VA workforce over the last 4 years. And so what's being talked about right now is reducing the current number of Veterans Affairs employees back down to 2019 levels. During the time that the workforce grew, we saw a 500% increase in the backlog of veterans trying to file claims. So it's not an issue of there not being enough money and there not being enough employees. The federal government tends to always think the answer is throw more money, throw more people at it. In this case, bringing on more people has actually made the VA more inefficient. And so I think it's a very wise move to look at how do we make the organization more efficient. And that does require, in some areas, downsizing, because some of these jobs exist merely to service other jobs. And then you can turn that money back and to put it into actual health care for veterans.
And Chase, I've volunteered at the VA. My wife's worked there. Like you mentioned, these are good people, but like you mentioned, the effort is to make it more efficient. So a follow-up on that is, as our veterans go in to receive this health care, now they're not going to be becoming doctors. They're still going to be getting the care that they have earned. Right. Tell us a little bit about that as they continue to try and make these cuts to make the VA more efficient.
Well, you bring up a great point. They have to be very careful about this. And from what I understand, they're not looking to cut where they're essential services. They're not looking to cut the people that are actually putting their hands on veterans and helping veterans directly. It's a federal bureaucracy. There is inevitably a lot of bloat. There are inevitably jobs that serve merely to perpetuate bureaucracy, and that's where they're going to be looking. Now, I'm under no illusion that there won't be some hiccups along the way. There won't be some pain along the way. The VA will adjust for that. But I was just on the phone literally about 2 weeks ago with someone who works in VA headquarters at Washington, D.C. at a high level, and she was telling me that Secretary Collins, one of his number one goals is to actually increase the number of veterans enrolling in the VA so they can get care. So this is an organization led by people who really have the veterans at heart, and they're going to make sure that I'm confident that they're going to make sure that those cuts are made in the right places.
All right, appreciate it, Chase. Let's pivot. Let's talk about Ukraine. Now, we have displaced Ukrainians right here in Topeka, living, working, and studying here. The fighting has been going on in eastern Ukraine since 2014. Chase, you've published on this. You recently wrote an article about Ukraine. We could talk about this all morning, of course, but how's this thing going to end, Chase?
That's the great question. How is it going to end? Probably, like you, I was just absolutely outraged when this war began. There was no justifiable reason for Vladimir Putin to cross that line at all and to invade the sovereign nation. But when you look at the history of humanity, that has been done many, many times before. It will be done many, many times again. My concern is that the fact that we have pumped over $180 billion into this war, a proxy war against Russia through the fields of Ukraine, a war that has left over 1 million either dead or wounded with no strategic end in sight. I think that's irresponsible. How is it going to end? I don't know. At some point there will have to be some kind of negotiated settlement. My desire is that the borders would go back to where they were in 2022. Do I think that's realistic? Probably not. But I really want to see this nation focused on how do we end this thing so that the people of Ukraine can go back to their lives rather than saying we're just going to keep throwing more money and more men and more munitions at this thing to perpetuate a war. That is irresponsible in every way.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and your analysis and your service, Chase. We appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, absolutely. Thanks so much. Well, meanwhile, we have our political analyst, Bob Beatty, is going to be joining us just in a minute.
Yeah, he's talking Doge, heated Republican town halls, and more. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Have you been in a car wreck, but maybe you're reluctant to hire a lawyer? You feel like you're causing trouble, being greedy? You aren't. If you've been injured, you may be entitled to compensation from the insurance company. If that money isn't a windfall, you're not the bad guy. You have every right to seek payment for your medical bills, every right to seek the best treatment available, and every right to maximum compensation. If you've been hurt, call me. I've got this.
Call 785-444-4444. That's 785-444-4444. When you need mobile coverage,
hey, Grandma!
Cox Mobile is right there with you. We run on the network with unbeatable 5G reliability.
Wow!
So you can stay connected from just about anywhere. We serve over 2 million square miles coast to coast. It's mobile service that works where you need it. Get coverage you can count on at a price you can count on too. Cox Mobile, the smart way to mobile.
Our warehouse is a mess. We've grown so big, so fast, we got to get it cleaned up. And the clock is ticking. We've got siding too short to be seamless, but too long to be recycled. If we can use our shorter pieces of siding on the back of your home to make just a few seams, we'll make the front and two sides seamless. It's almost like getting the back done free. And if you buy 3, you'll get 1 free. New polymer windows. This won't last long, so click.
Get an early start on your St. Patrick's Day celebration at Capper Foundation's 30th Blarney Breakfast. Rise and shine early on March 15th for the all-you-can-eat breakfast buffet served at Blind Tiger Brewery and Restaurant from 7 to 10 a.m. Enjoy a delicious breakfast, drinks, entertainment, raffles, and more, all while celebrity servers earn tips for a great cause. All proceeds help your friends with disabilities served at Capper Foundation build their abilities. Get advance tickets at capper.org, Capper Foundation, or the 29th Engage Dialogue Coffee.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. Kansas Senator Roger Marshall making headlines after a heated town hall in western Kansas. It's part of a series of Republican town halls where voters are expressing frustration over Doge cuts.
Yeah, I want to show you a clip here. It's where Senator Marshall abruptly ends his meeting. It's followed by boos from the crowd.
Percentage of those people, and I know you care about the veterans, are veterans. And that is a damn shame.
Yes. Yeah.
That is a shame. I'm not a Democrat, but I'm worried about the veterans.
Well, I yielded to one of my elders, and I appreciate his comments. I think it's a great. I'm not gonna. We don't have time for everyone to stand up. I do got 2 more commitments today. Appreciate everybody making the drive out, and God bless America. Thank you.
Well, you hear there, Senator Marshall. He called the audience rude after that, and he also shared a post from President Trump on social media claiming that these people were, quote, paid troublemakers.
Yeah, in the post, Marshall said he could confirm what Trump said, and his office sent a statement saying Democrat operatives sabotaged the meeting. Then Marshall walked back that claim. He said on KCMO Talk Radio he doesn't have, quote, firsthand evidence, and that it was a rumor he heard from the townspeople.
Yeah, we are now here with our political analyst, Bob Beatty. And Bob, really a lot to unpack here. Of course, even as Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, advising Republicans to stop these town hall meetings. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, first of all, my background is I've been going to Iowa since 2004 for the candidates who campaigned for U.S. president before the Iowa caucus. And that's what I'm used to, which is hundreds of candidates from the Republican side, the Democratic side. They go to Iowa, and people just walk in. They're from everywhere, and they just say, okay, give me your questions. Most famously, John McCain, the Republican senator who was the GOP nominee, used to hold town halls for hours. And so I'm watching this thinking, what the heck? He walks out at 38 minutes and says, I have other commitments. So he said it was going to be 45 minutes. He books a hall for 20 people, and then they end up with 40. And, you know, I'm thinking, this is no town hall I ever saw when I went to Iowa. That's what I'm used to, is if you're running for office, if you're a representative, you want to be president, you want to be U.S. senator, you sit there and you say, what's on your mind? And yeah, it may be every single person there dislikes every single thing you say, and you nod and you make your case. If he's for the Doge cuts, if he's for, you know, cutting veteran jobs, whatever, make the case. And if they boo, you just say, well, we got a spirited crowd here. So I guess I'm animated because I don't understand how a U.S. senator, you know, can do this and not expect people to be upset. This is a contentious time. You know, people can support President Trump or not. But if you're going to have a town hall, this is America, you can go to let your representative know that that's what you're doing. And there were people there that drove 4 hours, yes, because neither Senator Moran nor Senator Marshall will hold a town hall in Topeka, Overland Park, Olathe, Wichita. So here's what I would say to Senator Moran and Senator Marshall. Hold a town hall in Oakley, sure, but have them all across the state of Kansas, like Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa. It's called the full Grassley. He hits every single county. And, you know, eventually, actually, people might get tired of you. Great, you will only have 10 people. So I think I don't really understand it. I don't understand this idea of paid operatives, which is that allegation. You know, that was Chuck Nunn that we saw in that clip. He was a local resident of Oakley. He said he's a conservative Democrat. His wife is a Republican. And he laughed when he was asked if there was paid actors. He said, quote, it makes no sense if they were going to have a paid actor. They would pick somebody a hell of a lot better looking than I am and someone that's much better spoken than I am, unquote. That's Chuck Nunn. He's a Kansan. And we all saw the question. It was actually, he was really nice. He said, what did he say? I'm paraphrasing to Marshall. He said, quote, something like, I know you support the veterans. He sort of, it was kind of like a softball. Marshall could have spent 10 minutes saying, you're right, I do, but right, we want to do it the right way. We want to make sure that the cuts are the people that, you know, that aren't producing or whatever. Instead, he walks away and he turns his back on Chuck Nunn. And then he gets on the radio a day or two later, you know, and basically blames outside instigators when that was a local person that he turned his back on. So this is not a problem of the Democrats or Republicans. This is the U.S. senators across the United States, if they're going to represent their state, you know, hold town halls with an S. And not one town hall and then say, oh my goodness, oh no, like the people, oh my goodness, I can't handle it. It's again, I'm coming from seeing Republicans from Newt Gingrich to John McCain to Donald Trump in 2015, and then Democrats from Obama across the spectrum just saying, okay, what do you got? Give me your questions. And so Roger Marshall failed that day in being able to speak to Kansas people, and hopefully he'll come back and frankly do a better job.
Let's also talk about the transition from potentially in-person town halls to virtual town hall meetings. You know, with technology right now, you look at Zoom, they could technically leave the meeting anytime they wanted to. They could, you know, unfreeze someone if they, you know, put your hand up if you have a question. So what would that look like when they make that transition?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was virtual town halls during COVID. You know, it's kind of fun, the in-person town hall, because of this, because of what we just saw in that clip. It's real. It's people get emotional, yes, and as long as, you know, there's security and things are fine, okay, a little yelling, right? I think it's okay. We heard applause. You know, I don't want to get it. I like that. You know, again, it's that moment between Chuck Nunn and Marshall had the potential to be a really good exchange there. He could have described to him in person. He could have done a Bill Clinton. if many people know President Bill Clinton, he could have looked at him and said, yeah, I understand, which is what Bill Clinton used to say, and then Bill Clinton would then try to explain where he was coming from. I think that's more difficult, obviously, with Zoom and everything, and I like the old-fashioned town halls.
Let's move on to another topic now. I want to look back at some of the cuts being made right now by the Trump administration. I want to talk about how it could impact Kansas, Bob, especially our farmers, of course, and they're now sounding the alarm on the new tariffs, which we all know about, and then cuts to agricultural programs could potentially impact them.
So there's a little bit of concern because it's so important to Kansas, and there's this aspect that it might be a bit of a gamble. And when Donald Trump, when his first term as president, he did do tariffs, and there was a cushion, some people called it a bailout, in which $28 billion went to farmers across the United States to help them out because they were hurt by the tariffs. And I have not seen an announcement that will happen at this time, but the first time around there was pain felt by farmers, including Kansas farmers.
All right, Bob, thank you so much.
Sure.
Coming up after the break.
America is back.
President Trump's first speech to a joint session of Congress and the nation ignites mixed reactions as the push to cut government spending continues.
And we have key takeaways this morning, and Bob weighs in on how it could impact Kansas. We'll be right back. You are watching Inside Kansas Politics.
This tax season, why not save more? At Faith Furniture, we're axing the tax. That's right, get savings equal to your sales tax. Why pay more when you can pay less? Save the tax and enjoy the savings on the furniture you love. From cozy couches to a new mattress set. Now's the time to bring home more for less. Don't wait, the clock is ticking. Come into Faith Furniture in Manhattan today and axe the tax. Hurry, these savings won't last forever.
Car accident? Because your case matters. Devon James wins.
At Devon James, we know how stressful a serious accident can be.
That's why we do everything we can to take the worries off of you.
Because getting medical treatment matters.
Because keeping my job matters.
Because providing for my family matters.
It all matters.
After an accident, you focus on getting better.
And let us focus on everything else.
Because your case matters.
Devon James wins. Call or text 888-8888.
Can I get a Kelly in here?
Oh, yes, you can.
It's Kelly Clarkson, y'all! Every day on Kelly.
Yeah, I'm here.
Feel the love.
So friggin' excited. I was gonna keep it chill, but
if I had this job, I would never keep it chill.
Everything you want, it's all right here.
I love this crowd!
Y'all, this is an all-new Kelly.
All new weekdays.
Weekdays at 3 on 27 KSNT. 27 KSNT presents the Topeka St. Patrick's Day Parade, March 15th in downtown Topeka. Come enjoy all the Irish floats, music, and fun. It's a great tradition to enjoy with family and friends. So put on your green and join us March 15th.
Next live, the evil queen from Snow White, Gal Gadot.
Who is the fairest of them all?
Ben Falcone, plus Sting and Shaggy.
Monday at 11 on 27 KSNT.
Well, welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. President Donald Trump made his first major speech to Congress since returning to the White House.
Yeah, the Republican trifecta has now been in power in Washington for 6 weeks. Our Washington correspondent Jesse Turner recaps some of the biggest moments.
President Trump received a raucous welcome from Republicans as he outlined the accomplishments of his administration so far and what's to come. But Democrats really caused a stir with various forms of protests throughout the night.
America is back.
President Donald Trump gave a joint address Tuesday night to a noticeably divided Congress. After Republicans cheered the president's return,
remove this gentleman from the chamber.
House Speaker Mike Johnson ordered officials to kick out Texas Democrat Congressman Al Green from the chamber.
But it's worth it to let people know that there are some of us who are going to stand up against this president's desire to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security.
President Trump's speech focused on a variety of topics, including the trade war he just launched against Mexico and Canada.
They've allowed fentanyl to come into our country at levels never seen before.
Experts say the tariffs will force consumers to pay more for things like gas, groceries, and clothing. But the president said his policies will
make America affordable again.
President Trump also celebrated the work of Elon Musk and Doge to fire federal workers and cut funding.
Thank you, Elon. He's working very hard.
And President Trump promised to continue his immigration crackdown.
But if we truly care about protecting Americans' children, no step is more crucial than securing America's borders.
President Trump also announced the U.S. apprehended the terrorist responsible for the Abbey Gate attack in Afghanistan that killed 13 service members.
And he is right now on his way here to face the swift sword of American justice.
New Michigan Senator Alyssa Slotkin delivered the Democrats' response to the address.
America wants change, but there's a responsible way to make change and a reckless way.
All right, and during that speech, Trump also mentioned getting rid of the CHIPS Act, and it's something that we use for projects like EMP Shield in the EMP Shield plant in Burlington, and we have Integra Technologies in Wichita. So what could happen there, Bob, if that were to happen, and where do those conversations stand at the federal level?
Yeah, let me first say that American politics are starting to look a little bit like British politics. So if you watch the House of Commons, you know they're basically yelling at each other, and we'll see if that continues. It's just not traditional in America, but that's where it's going. And I should say, to add to that, in British politics, it's very traditional to have what's called the loyal opposition. And so it doesn't mean anyone's an enemy or a traitor. They're supposed to oppose the party in power, and I think we're seeing that a bit too. But you know, there's so much so quickly. In terms of the CHIPS Act, we know in Kansas, yes, and many other states, a number of very large projects. You and I were talking over $1 billion, you know, can impact a community, and these are either coming down the pipeline or are already started, and they're being partially funded by the CHIPS Act. I think in that one may not be have Republican support, or the Republicans may let President Trump know that actually, why don't we hold off? Because you're going to have Republican states as well saying, wow, that's big for our district, or that's big for some of our cities. So I'll be interested to see if that one actually follows through. Obviously, on a number of other fronts, things are happening very quickly, and we are seeing the layoffs and the cuts and the stops of grants very, very quickly, and we may even see the end of the Department of Education, not by any act of Congress, but by just President Trump being able to sort of stop it from doing anything.
Okay. Very interesting, Bob. Let's move on. We were talking about tariffs earlier. Let's go back to the tariff war. Now, we're concerned. Folks are concerned about the retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, for example, prices of things going up. How does this impact people, everyday consumers? You
know, that's a really good question, because we think of tariffs as, okay, you know, we're going to put 25% on anything from Canada coming into the U.S., but then what Canada may do is say, okay, we're going to put 30%, and all of a sudden, you know, everything goes up in price. So if somebody is making a product, right now they're talking about whiskey in Vermont, you know, they need maybe one ingredient from a Canada or China or a Mexico, and now it's so expensive that they can't make it. So that would drive the price up, maybe that one or two ingredients that they need from somewhere else. They make everything else in the U.S., but they need that one ingredient, for example. So there is some possibility that the tariffs could lead to inflation. There was one other, you know, there was talk of a Doge sort of benefit, that all this savings of money, we'll just give it back to the American people. That could actually lead to inflation as well, because of course, under President Biden, money was not passed out, but during COVID as well. So actually, anything that, you know, brings more money into to the economy actually can lead to inflation. So I'm really curious as to how some of these policies will affect inflation, because a lot of people say it's the economy. Keep in mind that, and we know Donald Trump said he had a landslide, and in some ways, you know, yeah, there's some reality to that. Keep in mind that what's a three vote margin in the House of Representatives. In the midterms, in 2 years, he could completely lose the House of Reps. So he's going to want to be careful with the CHIPS Act and inflation if he wants to keep the House of Representatives in 2 years.
All right, Bob, thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much, Bob. Appreciate it. Well, when you come back, a look at bills to watch at the State House this week.
One big one, changing how Supreme Court justices are selected. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
At Knoller, we get a lot of questions about all of our Ford products, but none more than this Bronco Raptor. This Bronco Raptor is equipped with a 3.0 twin turbo, 418 horsepower, 440 pounds of torque. this baby moves. This vehicle is equipped with 4 different drive select modes, including GOAT mode, which gets you over any type of terrain. This Bronco Raptor has 37-inch wheels, which help create this 13.1-inch ground clearance. And the best part about these Broncos are whether you're trudging through the mud in the rain with the tops on or enjoying a nice cruise down the boulevard with the tops off, they have the versatility to suit any of your needs. When you're out boulder crawling, cruising the highway, or sand duning, the Ford Bronco Raptor is fitted with available technology to keep you connected and entertained. So, for everybody looking for a new vehicle, from EVs to Super Duties, come down to Knoller and let us get you taken care of.
I'm looking for some grass seed, but I can never figure out which type to buy.
You can pick your grass seed out of a field instead of off a shelf.
You can do that?
Let me take you to our plots.
At Premier Farm and Home, each problem we help you solve, you'll gain confidence and find that no one can take care of your lawn like you can.
This week's Morning Coffee Club prize is a $17 gift certificate to Dirty Dough Cookies, Topeka and Lawrence. Sign up at KSNT.com for your chance to win. Then watch 27 News weekday mornings from 5 to 7 to see if you've won.
This week's Pets in Need Spotlight is Clark. Clark is a 1-year-old Terrier Bulldog mix who was found wandering the streets by a caring community member. He likes playing with other dogs and enjoying the fresh air. You can meet Clark at Helping Hands Humane Society.
You are a real-life hero. Your legend is growing.
I'll do it greatest. Bad guys, they don't play by the rules, so neither can I.
Sundays at 11 on 27 KSNT.
And finally, a look at some of the bills gaining traction at the State House. Bob, let's start with the judicial selection bill that passed the Senate, 27-13. Enough votes for it to have that 2/3 majority that it needs. Now goes over to the House. If the House is successful in doing that, what are some thoughts on the bill as it's moving forward?
Well, this is huge, and we may have a whole show on this down the road, because what this would mean is Supreme Court justices in the state of Kansas would be elected. Now, some of you may be saying, big deal. It's like, no. What it could mean is now under current campaign finance laws is that not only Kansans, but people from outside Kansas, money would flow in on these campaigns for Supreme Court justices. And the people of Kansas, if they do vote on this as a constitutional amendment, really just have to think, do we want to elect our Supreme Court justices? Because of, these are the legal side of things. They're judging the constitutionality of laws. It's just something they really need to think about if it comes up for a vote in August, which it very well might.
Very interesting, Bob. I attended a press conference on this, and the lawmakers were saying they want the people to decide versus the opposing school of thought, which is, well, we should let lawyers do lawyer things, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let's be honest. Whenever one side wants a vote on something, they'll say we want the people to decide, and the other side says no, and then it goes vice versa. I mean, why not have a vote on Medicaid expansion like they did in Missouri, right? But yes, it sounds like the people will get to decide. I'm thinking if this does get passed, and then it'll be very interesting, because we know from Kansas history that when some things that went up for a vote, constitutional amendment, the abortion vote, for example, a lot of people thought, oh, Kansas is pro-choice, is anti-abortion, and it lost. So it is always interesting when it does go to the people, because we just can't always predict.
Okay, what are some of the other bills we should keep an eye on?
Well, I think we need to look for what's going to happen with property taxes. There has not been a big property tax bill, as you've been talking about. We've been a little bit surprised, and now the legislature is looking at offering incentives to cities and counties. There's a new bill that would give $60 million total, but it would pass out money to cities and counties if they kept their spending below the rate of inflation and then kept their property taxes lower. So a lot of different ideas we're going to keep our eye on. That one is intriguing, of course, with offering a little money if cities and counties keep their spending low.
Okay. Bob, thank you so much. And that was your look inside Kansas politics. If you want to keep up to date with all things Kansas politics, you can follow us on social media. Follow us on X at NKS Politics and on Facebook. Just search Inside Kansas Politics.
And we're also going to post a full video on YouTube. Just search KSNT News and check out Inside Kansas Politics on KSNT.com for past episodes. If you have a story that you think we should cover, let us know. You can email us at ikp@ksnt.com.
We'll see you right here, same time, same place. Have a good day.